This last album cycle honestly was one of the most frustrating and annoying album cycles of, I think, Carrie Underwood's career. And I would say it was arguably her weakest album since Play On, probably. I don't think there's a ton to speculate over here, but I do think that there's still a lot of things we can go into detail about. For me, I think the failures of this album cycle are quite obvious, and it's pretty clear why it didn't perform as well. And we'll go through some of those indicators. Hi, my name is Momin, and welcome to Deep Cut Country. I just did a video on an in depth speculation on why Cardi Pierce's Hummingbird era kind of sort of failed, maybe, depends on how you want to see it. So today I want to look at Denim and Rhinestones by Carrie Underwood, which came out like a couple of years ago now, and there's a lot that happened which wasn't super great about this era. In the lead up to this album release, Carrie Underwood released My Gift and My Savior during the COVID years, which were her Christmas album and her gospel album. And especially with the gospel album, I feel like it was most likely the countryest effort that she's ever put out in an album, because as a whole cohesive body of work, because of the sounds. And I think one of the biggest examples for me was Nothing But the Blood of Jesus, I think, and Victory in Jesus. I think especially Victory in Jesus is probably, I'm not a super big fan of gospel music, but I think I've listened to Victory in Jesus so much because of its sounds and the clear vocal and production, and it's absolutely impeccable. And so I feel like because of that, people were really expecting that, okay, perhaps the next album would be a very country, more rootsier kind of, album effort. Even amongst fan forums of Carrie Underwood, I think the discussion was that she's probably going to release something that has a bit more of a traditional sound, especially since, it's making a comeback. It has made a comeback, in fact, in the country space, and people are really leaning into that sound. During the COVID years, she also had a couple of award show performances that were more of that traditional country flair too. She did that tribute to the women of the Grand Ole Opry, where she did a medley from Dolly Parton and Patsy Cline, Reba, who else was there? Barbara Mandrell and Martina McBride. I think I've covered all of them. So, and it was incredibly well received. Then she did the My Savior medley on also, I believe, the ACM Awards the following year, which was also incredibly well received online. Although there was no audience in front at the time during those award shows, but there were quite a few of those kind of like tribute traditional country performances, which kept showcasing how great she is at that. And it's not just the country pop that she keeps doing, and with Cry Pretty especially, I think there was the pop element on that album was especially more pronounced as a body of work overall. So I think even though it was great, and I mean, I won't say it was super successful because that also had mixed results, but I mean, people were expecting that, okay, the next effort will be far more country and therefore maybe even more successful for her. I also remember when she announced Ghost Story as a lead single, and when it came out, I was like, I mean, it was the very first time in my life where I heard a Carrie Underwood lead single. And I think after the first couple of listens, I didn't really go back to it that much, or I didn't go on repeat listens to be like, okay, no, I want to understand this, I want to know where it's coming from, and I like there was none of that, and I pretty quickly moved on from it. I later went back to it and I listened to it more, and I think I developed a little bit more of a liking towards it, especially after her CMT Awards performance, which I think was, I mean, just as a performance, I think it was incredible, where she does those like what do you call them, acrobatics or something like that. I think that was a great spectacle piece, and she did that really well. But other than that, there was not that much of an interest that I had in that, and so I was kind of disappointed because even the song itself is okay. Like, I mean, for me, there's nothing that stands out. The story, sure, I understand it has that slight creepy element to it in the lyrics, which makes it a bit more of that mysterious, kind of haunting ish feeling. But I don't know. There was nothing specific in it. There was no context to as to like what is she really talking about. It's just okay in the aftermath of a breakup, that person is just going to be thinking of her. But what happened exactly? Like no color, no situation, nothing is highlighted. So it was just a bland-ish song. But I also, in some ways, understand why that was chosen as the lead single, especially because in the lead up to the album, she had her Grammys performance as well, which I believe, obviously, in leading up to the album cycle and what kind of promotions and whatnot they will get, I think like the Grammy performance slot was possibly talked about as well. I don't know exactly how these timelines work, but I'm sure it was on the cards or it came up in conversations. And so, if I look at the track list of her album Denim and Rhinestones, I mean, Ghost Story is probably the one I can say, okay, is the one suited for a Grammy performance slot in the sense of it making like a big dramatic impact. Because if I think about any other song, maybe Velvet Heartbreak probably would have been that song, perhaps, which would have been a good, first televised performance from this era. Or what I would have preferred is Poor Everybody Else, even though it's like a completely rock sound and it doesn't represent like the rest of the album that well or anything. But it would have been great because the rest of the era had so many of her rock performances. Her performing with Guns N' Roses quite a few times over this period. She invited Axl Rose on Stagecoach, and then I believe she was their opening. What do you call them? I'm opening act. Damn, like I was thinking opening number. Their opening act for a select dates on their tour. And so they've had like a few of those collaborations happen. And just during the Cry Pretty era as well, she did CMA Fest with Joan Jett. So I think that would have been a great kind of like big impact, and also creating big interest as well in the album because it would be very different, and I think it would have served really well as well. But other than that, I guess Ghost Story for that purpose maybe sure was great, but again it didn't, for me, didn't really do much. And I know also for the fandom it didn't do much as well because I am pretty active in the Carrie Underwood fan world, so it didn't do that much. What was even more disappointing throughout the promo and the interviews of this album was that when asked about her thought process in making this album, what she kept saying in every single interview was, I just want to have fun.
And I was like, I just want to have fun. I was just like, I just want to have fun. I want to have fun.
And I get it. I'm sure I want her to have fun, sure. But there's no more depth to it. Like I think a lot of people of post COVID, they have put out albums that were more fun and that were more upbeat, and they wanted to have a bit more of that, happiness injection brought back. But they talk about it with more depth. They talk about the thought process of like, okay, I wrote this fun song, but then it was because I was feeling this during COVID. I wanted to offset that feeling and I wanted to bring this emotion to it, and this is how it impacted me. And now when I perform the song or write the song, I feel this way. Like there's so much more depth to it. So just to in the lead up to this album, just to say I wanted to have fun, that was so boring. And all the promo for like the album, even the video segments that she did, the trailer for the album, it seemed like she was, I mean, she was saying she wanted to have fun, but it didn't seem like she was having fun. And look, Carrie Underwood has always been a bit more of that reserved figure. She's not been extremely expressive and whatnot about with her facial expressions and everything, but like, I don't know, like this album just did not hit. Also, with her signing like a new contract with Universal Music Group as well after the Storyteller era ended, I think there was this big promise of like, okay, we're really going to pour into her. We're going to like expand her career, make it big, make her a global superstar. And then this album comes out, which performs very like not that great. It came to number two on the country album chart, which for someone like Carrie Underwood, if I is I think like not great. Like given her streak, and sure, I mean, I'm okay with people also not having that streak forever because it's bound to fall at some point. But I just feel like, I mean, and by the way, it didn't even stay in the top 10 for that long. It fell off the charts very quickly because there was no sustained interest. And I think over here, it's not so much about her age, and you know she's 40 plus obviously now in the country music field, and we know that females start to have lesser success as they grow old on radio and all of that. I get that as well, but I think this was, as much as it's that, I think it's also the failure in terms of the marketing, the positioning, and just the, I think, missed opportunity. I think she could have created this album, yes, and no one is denying her from exploring different styles and genres, because obviously she does the 80s synth pop as well, she does the rock element as well, so she goes in and out of like like those genres that she's been influenced by herself, and no one is denying her that. But I think this was a huge missed opportunity as well, where if this was a bit more of a like heavier country leaning sound that everyone was expecting and really wanting from her, and I think there has been like a huge hunger for her more country sound, because obviously her albums have always been traditionally like country pop. I think the most countryest and in some ways the grungiest effort she's put out has been Storyteller, which I do probably rank as one of my favorite albums by her. But I think when that wasn't done, I think it just was like, what's happening over here? So it would have been a great commercial success, in my opinion, as well, if she did more of that. The country-est song on this album is She Don't Know, which again, I think was a missed single opportunity. It would have been great to showcase that, hey, like, you know, I'm doing this like very rootsy kind of like country production song as well. Hate My Heart, I believe, was probably like a single choice because Hardy was like a co-writer on it, but it's one of the lowest performing singles of her career. I think, in fact, it is the lowest performing single of her career, if I'm not wrong. But like, it didn't even show up on the Hot 100 as well. Like, it was not great. There wasn't a ton of interest in that, and I know that even in the there were a lot of polarized opinions about the song, not just the song, but also I think for it being a single choice, especially in the Carrie Underwood fan world. So it it disappointed people quite. Then just after two singles from the main album, there was a deluxe version that was announced, and then Out of That Truck came as the third single from the overall era, which, when you think about it, I feel like that probably should have been the lead single of this album, because that was, critically at least, it was well received. It performed better than Hate My Heart. It streamed quite well as well. And even though it wasn't a top 10 hit, but like there was more interest that it gathered. And I think a lot of people saw it kind of as a return to form as well for her too, just in terms of the sound, even though it wasn't as that traditional country kind of thing. But it's a clever lyric, it's more, it gets stuck in your head as well, it has much more of a punch, and the production flows quite well. So I don't know, man. Like this album era was just so damn confusing, and but even from for Out of That Truck as well, there wasn't a ton of promo. There was no music video for it. Like I feel like I don't know what went behind the scenes, and I would love to know exactly what the conversations were going into this album. Like, what are the things that they were trying to target? What are the things they should have target? Like, I think one of the things that fans had a big problem with was that they did not try and focus on streaming, because I mean, on streaming, this album was just like really bad. Even if you look at the numbers now with this album, they're really bad compared to all her other efforts in that way. Even like, again, if we look at something like Cry Pretty, I think Cry Pretty, streaming wise, compared to this album, did far better in that way. There was far more interest around that. Cry Pretty had a bigger impact despite those singles not doing super well, but it had more interest as well. So, what are some deep cut missed opportunities on this album? I think Crazy Angels, again, not the most amazing song in the world, but radio wise, I think would have done well. Velvet Heartbreak, I think would have done well. I would argue it's probably one of the most well written songs on this album. In fact, like it's such a good lyric, and it's probably a metaphor that I haven't seen done in any kind of song before. So like it was quite an incredible song, and it could have been a great single, great big missed opportunity. Pink Champagne, I'm kind of like 50-50 on. I think people, it's a really good song. I think it could have been promoted in general to perhaps certain stations, but on country radio may not have done well because maybe it's a little too pop for country radio. But I think it's a successfully done infectious song. And then I think the last one for sure is She Don't Know. I think She Don't Know would have been like, it's a classic Carrie Underwood cheating song, and her cheating songs are things that are like songs that people have always loved, people have always wanted them, and she does them incredibly well. And I can even picture the music video for it as well. It would have been really good. But again, another big missed opportunity. There was, and aside from the initial interviews that she did for Denim and Rhinestones, after that she was kind of like nowhere to be seen in terms of interviews and whatnot. She went on tour, which was successful. She also got like Entertainer of the Year nominations as well. All of that happened, but I mean, I don't know. It was a very lackluster album cycle. So again, the question is that what will her next era possibly look like? It does seem like with her being a judge on American Idol, they're probably trying to get more traction and more interest in her career again, which I think American Idol has done, because there's so many people who have written, like if you go online and look at the feedback, of course there's some negative commentary as well, but there's also so many people writing that I watched this season after a very long time just because of Carrie Underwood. And I think there has been kind of a bit of a renewed interest in her. There's more prominence. Her social media, I think, prominence and engagement has been really good over the last like several months just because of being on American Idol. I think it's been really nice to see her flourish a little bit more and prominent a little bit more. And she may not have the same kind of commercial success promised for her anymore because again of her age, and also having newer female artists now who are doing very well. But I think she may have at least another album or two that could do well, where she can really do some solid punches, and after that she can, I don't know, be a greatest hits artist or whatever. But my main also concern and disappointment in this era was that, and I've expressed this sometimes as well, that I feel like this era already kind of felt like that she was essentially now a greatest hits artist. Her Las Vegas residency being renewed over and over again, which again gives her prominence and everything, but I think it just seems like, okay, that's now her catalog and there are no more hits that she may have anymore. So that kind of makes me a little bit sad, because and she has an incredible catalog, far more than so many other female artists, like, and she's had success that not many other female artists in country music have had. So of course she's already had like a big share and a big chunk, so I'm not denying that at all. Even awards wise, I think she's had like far more than many other female artists get to see. Again, talking about Cardi Pearson, the last video, just 4 or 5 albums in, it seems a little bit rocky already. So Carrie Underwood has had like an incredibly successful run, sure, but I think when there's so much interest and there's so much love for an artist as well, you want to kind of like see them succeed for just a little bit longer. And you understand if there's lack of success, but you want the artists themselves and their team and their label to put their best foot forward, which I think becomes a frustration when that's not done, and that leads to unimpressive results. I think that's where the frustration comes into play. And people really want that effort to be 100%, and then if it doesn't play out, then it's like, okay, it's fine. So that's where I think the disappointment and the confusion comes into play. But again, like I said, I think she has perhaps another album or two in her where she can have a good run commercially, that she can make a good big impact. I think her team can really try to learn from I mean, I would say the last couple of eras, but I think especially like Denim and Rhinestones, I think that's an era they can really learn from, and try to improve on that, and see where it goes. So let me know what your thoughts are on this era. Where do you think it went wrong? Where do you think that the next era could go? And yeah, I mean, that's my overall overarching kind of commentary on this last era. Let me know what you think.